All right, we are ready to get started. I know we're competing with some really nice weather outside, so I'm sure we're going to have a couple more people join. Uh, you're right, Keegan. I could use the playlist at DPA, but no, you get Katy Perry and I Kissed a Girl. I'm sorry. Thank you very much. This is the sixth one of these I have done. I am working on some guest coaches for next week. Pretty excited about a couple of them. Some of them you won't know, but quarterbacks, I'm trying to get you who I consider the best quarterback coach that is in the city that isn't working at the Dinos or the Stampeders. So I'm working on getting him to host a session coming up. And O lineman, I am working on getting an O line coach. So I see Jacob Taves and um, Campbell Hobson are in the chat. Sorry, it's been so focused on skill position, but who knows? Maybe you guys might want to try tight end or slot back at some point. Uh, with that being said, a couple of things I want to do. I want to link in the chat here. If anybody's missed any sessions and is bored like we all are, these are the YouTube links to all the previous sessions that we have, save the last one. Go listen to them, have a look, let me know what you think. If they generate any questions, feel free to email me. Today's session is going to be on good and bad route running, and it's based on some feedback I got from some players who had some questions about individual routes and how they're run. So have a look at those previous sessions. If they bring up any questions that you may have, feel free to ask. In the chat, if you have a question, please write it down in there, and first chance I get, I will come back to it and answer it. So today's topic is going to be good and bad route running. So I've combed through the tape that I have, and I found examples of routes that I really like and routes that I don't like as much, and just show you the difference. And for you skill guys, for you quarterbacks, for you receivers, for you running backs, at some point in your life, you're all going to be running routes. Most high school quarterbacks end up making it at the next level as a receiver, so it's really good to know what the difference between a good and a bad route is. So very important to do that. I'm just adding one person to the chat. I'm just going to wait for him to join here. And it is Duncan Little. So Duncan, if you can add your microphone to the situation, I would love for you to be able to participate in the coaching side of this. Duncan Little's one of the best quarterbacks I've ever coached, and a really good a really good football mind. So please have a look and sorry, one sec. Please have a say if you can. Duncan, if you could add anything to the conversation. I'm going to unmute you, so if you want to talk, feel free to jump in and give your piece. Duncan, say hi to everybody.
Hello, everyone.
Perfect. Excellent. So with that, we're going to get started on our topic today. So good and bad route running. But first, I want to start every practice with a warm-up. So this is going to be the last time we do receiver warm-ups. I'm going to move on to running back and O-lineman warm-ups coming up. And then eventually we're going to move towards defensive setups and defensive warm-ups. But right now, looking at some receiver warm-ups. So the first one I have for you is a pre-practice drill that I call interference. So this can be done pretty easily by getting a resistance band and have one player have the one hand tied to the resistance band and another player holding on to the end of it. So when the receiver goes up to catch the ball, I want you to tug slightly on the resistance band. Don't make it a big jerk, but make it just a little bit of a tug, and it creates a feeling of interference. It creates a feeling of an arm kind of digging in and getting in the way. So really good way to simulate what DBs like to do when they interfere with you. So that being said, let's have a look at it. Receiver drills 3. Again, I'm limited to what I can pull off the internet, so this is the drill here. So as you can see, they're tying the resistance band to one arm. Okay, and this should be done pre-practice. So when you get there early, so the receiver's going to go up and somebody's just going to pull on that arm. This is really working focus and concentration and hand strength. Let's see it one more time. Again, when I talk about pre-practice drills, this is something that good players do automatically. If you're somebody who has an interest in playing at the next level, you usually show up to practice 15, 20 minutes early. You're going to go through your own kind of warm up. You're going to get yourself ready. Some coaches call it early outs. I like to call it early outs as well. But skill players, especially for receivers, I can't stress this enough. You can go through a whole practice without a football being thrown at you. So drills like this really help. Okay, they really give you a chance to catch more footballs in a day and really become second nature. We all know DBs like to cheat. We all know they're going to be grabbing you. This is a great pre-practice drill. I'd go 10 aside, and then you can use this drill on your partner and go from there. Okay, moving on to our next drill. I'll just stop the tape, come back to the PowerPoint here. We're going to go to another drill that's going to work on something that we see every time. So a quarterback is going to stand 5-10 yards away. Just got some more kids to add here. Just give me a sec. So a quarterback is going to stand 5 yards away, and the receiver is going to run 5 to 10 yards right across the quarterback's face. And the quarterback is going to throw 10 passes ahead and 10 passes behind the receiver. Okay? So if you have a big group, do this maybe 2 times each, but it really gets used to the receiver having to make adjustments on the fly while moving forward, right? Not everything's going to be a perfect throw. Sometimes your quarterback's going to be early on it, but you still need to make those adjustments and go from there. So let's see what it looks like. Pretty simple drill, but pretty effective drill. Oh, that's not it. It's this one. So as we see, the receiver's going to start. Sorry, it's a little bit stretched of a video. Like I said, I'm dealing with just the internet. We're going to throw it right in front of the receiver for the first couple of reps. Okay, getting used, and then one behind where we have to make an adjustment. Again, important learning points here, teaching points here. Coaches, use the phrase eyes to tuck as much as possible. Get your receivers used to that mentality of looking the football in and tucking it away. Look, this is a really good example of what I'm talking about here. Look at his head. Right here, he is looking that football right in, tucking it away, and finishing the rep, okay? This is something that I would do about once a week. You know, it's a good change-up drill. I wouldn't make it an everyday drill, but it's a great change-up drill. Have your quarterbacks wing it in there in front and behind. Okay, moving on to our last drill of the day. And what I like a lot, I'll get my PowerPoint back up here. Okay, receivers stand 1 yard apart. The defender will fire hands simulating a jam. So we all know DBs like to be in press coverage. They think it's a good situation for them. I'll talk about that in a sec. But DB will fire hands simulating a jam. The receiver will use his outside hand. If he's making an inside cut, he's going to use his outside hand, if that makes sense, to club the elbow. In the video, they're going to show shoulder. I like elbow better. And the inside hand is going to rip past the defender. The whole goal of this is to get as skinny as possible, and then you're able to stack the defender, okay? If you're in a fight, people always say keep your hands up. It's a term that's used in boxing all the time. When you're in press coverage, it's a fight. The first person to have hands on the other guy wins. So have your hands up, get ready to fight, okay? So let's walk through what that looks like on video here. Okay. Here we go. So receiver, as you can see, hands are up, ready to fight. DB's hands are down. Okay, so many times I see receivers in press coverage have their hands down by their knees because it's more comfortable and it's more relaxed, and they lose a second in the battle to get hand placement, right? Don't give your DB any sort of edge. Get your hands ready to fight. Okay, hands are ready to go. We know this is war, and we can go from there. Okay? I'll get a little further on here. Okay? So as you see on the video here, he's teaching to club with your outside hand. This is an in-breaking way. So outside hand, he's teaching shoulder. I like to hit elbow. The reason why I like to coach hitting elbow is because it hurts more. Okay? If the defensive scheme for the other team is based around press coverage, this is a battle of attrition. You're going to run up against this player 10, 15, 20 times in 100 plays, right? So how many people love to get their elbow hit 15 times in a row as hard as possible? It's a weak joint. It can hurt after time. This is a battle of attrition. If you beat this guy up on the first couple of times doing this, he is not going to press you the same way. Okay? Let's roll the tape a little bit more. This to me is an everyday drill, coaches. This is something I like all the time. Okay, receiver's ready to go. I think his hands are a little bit too low here. Slaps, gets out here. Now, here's why I think defensive guys love jams, because if they do it right, they can really jam you up. But if you get off a jam well, this guy, look at his body position. He's facing the wrong way. His hips are the wrong way. This guy's screwed on this route. Get out and then stack him. Okay, it is so important to get back on your plane after you've been jammed. The reason why they jam you is not necessarily just to hold you up on the line. That's mission one, and if they get it, that's great. But if they jam you outside and they push you 5 yards away, when your quarterback looks to where you're supposed to be on the field and you're not there, he's going to go to his next read. So it's really important, once you get around, to get right back on your plane. If this guy misses the jam, you will stack him and he will be chasing you the whole time, meaning every single route that you have, any single possible cut that you can make is a winning route because he is chasing you from behind. Okay? So let's watch that one more time in real time, and then we'll move on to the good and bad routes. Okay, so again, I want the hands up higher. I want you to aim for the elbow and then stack that receiver. Or sorry, stack that defensive back. Any questions on our pre-workout drills here? I see no questions, so we're going to move on to our good and bad routes. So here's what I'm looking for in routes, okay? I'm looking for a friendly finish. It's so important to come back to the quarterback even half a yard. We've got a couple of really good looks at that coming up. What it does is it creates a better angle for you, and it creates a better angle for your quarterback. You don't have to work as hard through traffic. I'll show you some really good ideas with that. Proper depth is so important. If we're running a hitch route or we're running a comeback route or really any route, you need to run your proper depth, right? If you're supposed to be at 4 yards and the next guy's supposed to be at 14 and you're both running outs, if you're at 8 and he's at 12, now one defensive back can cover you, right? So proper depth is super important. At your practices, get cones, make a sideline, make your depth, right? So you know how far you need to go. Count it out. Take that little extra time so you can practice your depths properly. Run correctly versus coverage, okay? So if you are in a situation where, oh, no, good to see you, Marshall Shane. It's all good. Run correctly against coverage. So if you're supposed to be running a slant route and you're against man coverage and you decide to try to find a window, you're basically getting covered by no work on the DB's part, right? conversely, if you're running a slant against zone coverage and you come in too hard, you're going to get messed up by a linebacker. They live for that kill shot. So make sure you know the coverage as best as you can and adjust from there. Number 4, finish your route. I don't care if the ball goes the other way. Okay? We need to run every play like it's going to be a winner. You never know when your quarterback is going to – if he's told – sometimes I tell my quarterback, I want you to look backside, I want you to throw backside here. But if that backside route isn't open, your quarterback is going to go to his second read, and if you've decided to dog it, this play breaks down and somebody else gets hurt because you're not putting in the effort. So make sure you finish your route. I call that running for the love of the game. There are so many times in football where you're going to run a route that's going to get somebody else open. You need to run it just as hard as if you're getting the football, because what that does is it gets one guy open, 5 guys working to get one guy open, as opposed to 5 guys all trying to hog the ball, right? Run for the love of the game. It's a position that requires you to be athletic. It requires you to run a lot, and it requires you to be unselfish. You're only going to get the ball 3 or 4 times a game, tops, if you're a receiver. Get used to it and work just as hard. With that, we're going to hop right into the video that we have. And the first thing I want to talk about are hitch routes. So I've got 2 good examples of hitch routes here. One I like, one I don't like. So we'll start off, not to be negative, but we're going to start off with a bad one. Okay, this is a really good player, but he doesn't do himself any favors here. So this is a 3-receiver hitch concept. Okay. As we come over, right, I want you to ISO number 28 here. Okay. The depth on this is supposed to be 6 yards. Okay. This receiver takes 3. Okay. So now, instead of being in the end zone when he's supposed to catch the ball, he's now short of the end zone. So even if he makes the catch and this guy closes properly, we don't have enough for the first down, right? Sorry, we don't have enough to get the touchdown. And that's the whole point of this play. The other thing I don't like about this route is we're not running this to win, right? This defensive back has no reason to back up, okay? We're in the red zone here. He's basically worried about the deep threat, not worried about the deep threat, but if you pump your legs hard and you make it look like you're going to go, he's going to back up 5 yards, making this touchdown really easily. Okay? So you want to get to your proper depth. You want to work just as hard as you would if you're running a 9 or a go route, because you want to sell that hitch route deep. If you don't sell a hitch route deep, a DB will sit on you, and it'll be very easy for them to make the play. Now, for anybody who's on the call right now, what would be a good reason to kind of run this route lazy? Make it not look good. What would be a good reason? Anybody on the chat got an answer? Yep, we got it, Parker. If we want to run this kind of crappily and then hook and go, that's a nice looking play, right? Because then we bait the defensive back to coming downhill. But when you're actually running the hitch, you want to give yourself as much space as possible by running as hard as possible. Does that make sense? Here's a really good example of it here. So we're going to watch this receiver right here. This was one of his best routes. He ran this really, really well. Look at his body language. Not right now. I think his hands are a little bit low. But when he comes off the ball here, pumping his legs hard, pumping his arms hard. Look how much this DB has to go back. Right? Bam. Puts his foot in the ground, takes his yards, and goes from there. Okay? We're also going to watch number 17 on the outside here. Okay? Now, I know coverage is a little bit off, but look at Ty work his arms here. His body looks like he's going deep, right? His arms are pumping. We have good reason to back off. Foot in the ground. He's built himself a 6-yard cushion, makes a nice catch. That's an easy 6 yards, right? One more time here. Sorry, just got to keep adding some people. We got some late joiners. Okay. One more time here. That's a nice looking route. Okay. I had a bit of a glitch with my uploading here, so I'm going to skip over the next two. And now I want to talk about some corner routes, okay? Now, this quarterback wasn't very good. No, just kidding. This is Duncan. So, like I said, one of the best quarterbacks I've coached in a long time. But not only was he good, this slot back was fantastic. His name was Owen, and he was one of the smoothest route runners I've ever seen. So this is an 8 that I want to focus on. Okay, we've seen this before on a previous chat, but I want to really break down what he does well. Okay, so again, selling it deep, he's going to slightly move inside. Okay, when he's running an 8-breaking route, an out-breaking route like an 8, there's nothing wrong with pushing just a little bit inside on your route to give yourself more room on the other end, right? By doing that, instead of coming out here and running his 8, he's giving the quarterback just a little bit more room to throw the football, right? As we roll here, plants, firm, makes his cutout. Now, he's aiming for the very first pylon, right? He's aiming for the first pylon of the end zone, and he has all this room for the quarterback to throw him open, okay? He's open right now, but he's giving Duncan all of this space to throw him open. Duncan does a nice job throwing it where the DB isn't. This DB is in chase the whole play, and we end up scoring. Okay, but let's watch this again. Man coverage is great against 8s. Okay, building himself some room, nice stem. One other thing I want to highlight here. Watch how he comes out of this break here. He doesn't immediately look for the football. Okay, he's going to take 3 or 4 hard steps, and then he's going to look for the football. He's got his depth, makes the play. Okay? It doesn't have to be a perfect throw because he's given his quarterback enough room to throw him open. Okay? If he was here, let's go back a little bit further. If he was here by the time the quarterback was trying to throw the football, we have no space for the quarterback to float it out a little bit. This now has to be a perfect throw. But because we have all of this room, we have enough room to throw there, right? And Danny, you're right. That was a dime. Nice looking route. Okay, now let's look at a bad corner. Oh, Donovan. Perfect. Okay, so we're lining up. This concept is going to be a hitch, and an 8. Okay, receivers that are on the call, no quarterbacks, just receivers. I want you to answer this question. Which cone should we be looking for when we're inside the 25? Which pylon? Hey, there we go. Excellent. So we should be high pointing out this way, right? More of a straight line, but we should be aiming for that back pylon here. Okay, now watch what this receiver does. Okay, makes a good break. We've got the coverage we want, but look how flat he runs this route. This is a catch, and I'm happy that we got a touchdown, but this is a dangerous throw, and it doesn't have to be. Okay, if we're working this way towards that back pylon, if the quarterback were to miss or if the receiver were to bobble the ball, we're running out of the back of the end zone, okay? Make sure we know where we are in the field. Make sure you're executing based on that. I don't like where his body position is. It's a great touchdown, but again, look how perfect this throw has to be, okay? Great that we made the catch, but if we make it back here, if we overthrow or if we fumble the ball, we live to fight another day and we take another shot. If this receiver didn't catch the ball, there was a very good chance the defensive back would have. And that's not a situation I like. Moving on to play number 7. This is a good corner. I've showed you this play before, and this is a good example of what I'm talking about. So number 14, inside guy, same concept. Or sorry, this is a spike concept. So 8, hang 1. But watch his angle here, okay? Plants, and he breaks for that back cone. The ball is perfectly thrown. It's in a great position. But right here, what's the worst thing that could happen with this ball in the air here? Either we get a touchdown or the ball is dropped or we overthrow it in the end zone. This defensive back is always in chase. He cannot make a play on the ball. This is a perfectly thrown football. Now, we don't make the catch. Danny is just crushed. I'm sorry, Danny. Let's watch his heart break here again. Boom. But again, we live to fight another day, and it's so important to know where we are on the field. If you're past the 25-yard line, aim for that first cone. If you're within the 25-yard line, aim for that back cone. Any questions? Okay, now we're looking at slant plays. We're going to go back in time a little bit. This is I'm laughing because of who just joined. Coach Pete Dewan from the Calgary Colts is here, and he was the defensive coordinator in this game. So it's funny that he's going to see some of his old tape here. But we're going to focus right here on this player. Okay, we're running a slant, which should be here and pressed up. Okay, and again, this is one I don't like so much. If you know me or you've coached against me, I love slants. I think they're the most underrated play in football. They're a 3-4 yard pass that can turn into a 10, 15, 20-yard gain if done properly. On this route, a couple things I don't like. So what kind of coverage do we think we have here based on contour, based on head placement? What do you guys think? Some form of man. You're right, Danny. So if it's man coverage, how should we run a slant? We should be running this route with speed, okay? If you slow down and you try to fit in a window, there are no windows, right? If we don't see a window, we got to keep going. So Keith will come off this, and then he slows up right here. He still has all of this green space. Granted, he wants to avoid this player, but by stopping his feet, he's allowing this defensive back to close. So in man coverage, we want to run away from people. We're not looking to fit in between them. We're looking to run away from them. That's why go routes, slant routes, rub routes that we talked about last session, 8 routes are so good against man coverage. An 8 is perfect. A slant is perfect. But you got to run them away from people, and you got to run them fast. So he posts up, and it allows the defensive back to close on him way too quickly, okay? If he takes it a couple more seconds here, we might have a complete pass, and that might be exactly what we're looking for, okay? Moving along, play number 9. This is a good slant with a bad hang route. So this is a twofer. We got a couple of learning moments. We're looking at the same player here, okay? I must have yelled at him after the last game because this slant is much better. We know this is zone coverage, a form of zone coverage. One sec. Brady, stop, Brady. Sorry, a little extra dog barking for everybody. Okay, so let's watch this slant again. He's going to come right off the line. Going to fit in here. He's going to fit right in this area here. Okay? Yeah, I know. I named my dog Brady, but I'm going to have to rename him after the awful signing. Yes, it is after Tom Brady. Now, Danny's going to give me a hard time about Tom Brady, but he's a Houston Astros fan. So I'll let you guys kind of kind of give him a hard time for that one. Anyway, really nice slant here, but watch this hang route. Okay, this player should be stopping here, and instead he's going to leak downfield. If he had a guy with him, he would now bring that other person into coverage. Okay, so remember your job, remember your area. We are not in scramble rules at this time, so I'm not 100% sure why he kept going. Right there, he's a viable route. Anything he does after this, he might be able to screw up the play or bring a defensive back in there. So one cheater recognizes another. Oh, Parker Nay, it's going to be a long high school for you. Okay, moving on. Play number 10. Okay, this is another bad slant. Let's watch here. What's the coverage? Somebody tell me the coverage and tell me why. You're right, Ben, but why? Yes. Excellent. So this is a really good example of the motion giving us a heads up. We talked about this on the first phone call that we did. Right here, right now, we know that we have man coverage, so we're going to look to our man beaters and go from there. This slant, so flat. Okay, Keith is only about half a yard deep. Now, I want to push this here, so if we catch the ball here, we're actually getting a good take here, okay? But running this route here is not going to do too much for us, right? I want to get some depth, and because it's man, because I know it's man, I want to work hard across. I know we're looking backside here, but if this player comes up here, we actually have an area that he is going to be able to catch a pass in that's going to lead to some yak yards. I'm not 100% sure why our quarterback threw that way, but that was the case. What would be the most viable route on this route? If we were looking to throw this, talking to my quarterbacks here, not Danny, not Ben, because I know we talk about this stuff all the time. But if you see man coverage, we've got an 8, we've got a hang, and we've got a slant. What's the first route we all want to look at? Absolutely. We should get really excited about that 8. And if we roll this play through, I would have taken a shot. Look at this. Sorry, that's old notes. Look at this defensive back. Turned all the way around, trying to watch the inside. I think if we threw this 8, we would have had a winner. But we looked somewhere else, and that's okay. But again, if you're running a slant, you should be catching the ball at 4 to 5 yards on your way to 6 or 7, okay? Moving on, we're on play number 11. Another bad slant, but I've got a couple of good ones coming up. Okay, now to roll this back a little bit, I'm not a fan of this timing. I'm not a fan of both our slot backs being not at the same time. Okay, take a couple of seconds. Just because we run motion doesn't mean we have to go over as fast as humanly possible. Motion over, stop, get set, find your depth, and go from there. Unless the play specifically calls for you to be in full motion, take a second to get set up. Your quarterback will send you towards the play, or at least in my offense, they do. Okay, and we're watching number 12 again. Really flat, right? I like the fact that he's sitting, but what's the problem with him sitting in a window here? Who on the chat could tell me what's the problem with him sitting in a window on a slant? Absolutely. It's man coverage here, right? So by sitting in a window, we're just making it easy for the guy to close, right? I would have preferred he come in as fast as he can, go all the way, get deep, come in here, and make a play. Again, I really like this route. I really like the corner route here. We have man coverage. We have a deep safety. The safety might be able to make a play, but I think we could have had a winning shot there. So let's watch some good slants now. Okay. I've picked on this kid enough. I feel, sorry, I'm going to skip ahead here. This is our good slant. I got to come back to that corner route because it was a beaut and I added it at the last second. So motioning over, this is the rub concept that we talked about yesterday. As we motion over, watch this player here. He's running the slant I'm talking about. Running over with speed, catching the football in front of the linebacker and making a play. Okay? This is what I want in man coverage, right? Doesn't slow his feet down, gets to his depth, constantly working, moving his feet, eyes on the football, tucks it away, makes a play. Okay? This is how you run a slant against man coverage. Nice. Okay, moving along. Got another good slant for you, and then I'm going to come back to that corner route because it was a good one. I added it late. Okay, so this player right here, one of the better receivers, I think, in Alberta right now, highly underrated, and I think he can go somewhere. So watch Ty Metcalf because I think he's going to be a good one. Ty knows his coverage, right? He knows it's a deep, deep man. He's going to make a nice catch. Good yak yards. This is great presence, right? They're not showing a zone look, but they're really far off. So he's just going to find some green space and get friendly to the quarterback. Again, he's a little bit shallow on this route, but I love that he finds some space and turns it up. He's aware of where the defensive backs are at all times, so he gives himself a little bit more room. Okay, I want to go back to play number 12 here because I'm going to show you a corner route that I really, really liked. Okay, watch this player here. Okay, it's going to work hard. He's selling this deep, foot in the ground, going out, aiming for that first pylon. Again, allowing his quarterback to throw him open. Okay, right here is where he makes his break. And right here is all the space his quarterback has to throw him open, right? He's not too shallow. He's in that right spot. He almost has a touchdown if it isn't for this tackle, which we got 15 yards on at the end of it. Again, aiming for that first pylon because we're not within the 25-yard line, allowing his quarterback to throw him open and throw his adjustment, right? If he makes his adjustment too soon, the quarterback cannot throw him open. He has to throw a perfect ball. That wasn't a perfect football. James went and got it, right? He went out and tracked it down, but he also allowed his quarterback the ability to not be perfect, right? Help your quarterback out if you're a receiver. Make sure that you're giving your quarterback that 10-yard cushion. I know some coaches refer to that as the quarterback's lawn. You don't go on it until they throw you open on it, but it's super important. Okay, now let's talk about outs, and then I'm going to let you enjoy what's left of the sun. Play number 15, we got a really nice out here. Okay, so this is going to be a 249 concept, I believe. Now, actually, no, I have this mislabeled. This is the wrong one. This is not a good out. Okay, so right here, we're supposed to be at 4 yards depth, right? So here is the line of scrimmage. As we run it, that out should be at 4 yards. We're actually at about 7. Okay, this route should be at 16 back to 14, and we're at 12. So what this does is it allows this player to cover both these two outs. So this is a really good example of why depth matters. Okay, a 4-yard out doesn't sound like much. Oh, yeah, Keegan, you got it. I was just going to mention that. 4 yards doesn't sound like much, but in the right spot, 4 can be 8, 4 can be 12. But if you try to press that too deep, you're going to be in trouble. And also, we're going to leak downfield here. We do not have friendly finishes on this, and that creates a bit of an issue. Quarterback has to throw the ball somewhere he doesn't want to be. Okay, right here, a quarterback wants to make a read. We've got a defensive back who's splitting our 2 open guys, right? This guy should have to make a choice. If this guy is here and this guy is here, this guy has to make a choice. But right now, he doesn't. He can play both men and be able to make a play on both guys. So depth matters. Receivers, I can't stress that enough. If your route is supposed to be ran at 4 or 14 or 2, whatever your coach is telling you, understand why that depth is important and make sure you're hitting it. This is a really good example of not being at the right place and allowing this player to make a play. I mean, let's watch this play one more time. If he is the only defender in the area, he should have to make a decision here or a decision here. He's probably going to take the deepest threat, but because we're not making it hard on him, he takes the under, and we can't make anything happen.
Quick thing for receivers on this.
Yeah.
If you see a helmet of your teammate, you probably won't get the ball. Simple thing like that.
Can you expand on that, Duncan?
So in that situation, they're stacked, what I call stacked on each other. So the quarterback can only see one of you at that point. He has to trust that you're at the right depth, and in that situation, he wasn't. So there's no way the quarterback can tell exactly where you are, and that leads to problems. If he thinks you're at 14 and you're actually at 7, that's a pick in this situation.
Yeah, we're really lucky that KJ didn't throw it deeper, right? Because if he picked the deeper guy, we are looking at a pick. You're correct. Okay, moving on. Thanks for jumping in, Duncan. That's great. Duncan Little, again, I think he's going to be one of the best quarterback coaches around. I encourage you young quarterbacks, if you have me on Facebook, reach out to Duncan and ask him for some advice. He's one of the best quarterbacks I've worked with, but also somebody who understands the game from the technical side and really studied it. So a really good mentor for some of you young athletes. Okay, we're going to be looking, we're at play 16. This is a bad out. And let's see why. Yes. So right here is the player we want to watch. I know the tape isn't that great, but I know Keegan will be able to answer this. What's missing from that 4 there? We do not have a friendly finish on that 4, okay? As we break out of this right here, we should be finishing here. Instead, we're going to leak upfield. Now, again, what that does, it's such a small thing, but it gives you such great if we finish friendly here and we have a DB who's closing on you, this DB now has to go 2 or 3 extra yards to close on this, right? If we leak upfield and the DB is here, we don't have to take those extra steps, right? We don't want to make life easy for DBs. We want to make it as hard as possible. Half a yard back can be 3 yards in the chase. Half a yard forward can now make it 1 yard. Okay? So again, that friendly finish makes a big difference. And now let's see a good out, I believe. No, bad out again. Now, again, I talk about depth here, right? We have our quarterback rolling out. Okay, we have 2 players that are open, but they're both in the same area, right? This depth should be at 4 yards. This depth should be at 14, 16 to 14, which means there should be 10 yards between them. Currently, right now, there is 5 yards between them. we want to make sure that we're putting defensive backs in a bind. This guy who's chasing, once he gets there, he will be able to make a play. I mean, we should have had this catch, but still, make sure you're running your route. The other thing I want to talk about is this guy on the end here, okay? He's supposed to be running a 9. He doesn't think he's going to get the ball here. So instead, he now becomes an extra flood player and brings himself in the area that he's not. So if you're to the left, go right. If you're to the right, go left under scramble rules. But he should be finishing his route up here, okay? I don't want him to be down low. I don't want him getting involved. He's a 9 for a reason. He is not getting the ball. He should never get the ball in this situation. We should be running for the love of the game, which you'll hear me say all the time. You're running to get somebody else open. He actually brings the defender who breaks up the play into the situation, right? We don't want to do that. Okay, on to our last clip of the day, 7:49. So I want to get you some time to enjoy the sun. Okay, we've got a tandem route here. Now here's a really good example of friendly finishes. Okay, both of these kids are Dickinson kids. Both of these kids have heard this a million times. Watch our 2 route right here at 4, finishing just slightly downhill. Now, I know he's not getting the ball here, but look at his player who's covering him. Okay, he has to work through traffic. He's 4 yards away. He's still 4 yards away right when the ball would have been thrown, right? It's creating a situation where he can't close. That's why friendly finishes are so important. Now let's look at a little bit deeper here. Tristan plants the foot, and he will start to bend it back a little bit early, bend it back a little bit friendly, making it harder for his defender to close the gap. If he leaks this up here, they meet here. He finishes around here. Now we've got to come downhill to get that. That's nice, right? And these are the little things that are going to be the difference between you getting open and getting covered. Yeah, well, I used to call him Tristan David all the time because it's TD, but I used to do it a lot more French. But these things are all little things, and they sound so nitpicky, but when you see it on tape, you can see how big of a difference it makes. If he leaks this upfield, he is not going to make this catch, or he's going to have to make this catch with this guy burying his helmet into him, right? We want to do everything we can to make DBs and linebackers' lives hard. So become students of this stuff, okay? Practice your friendly finishes. Go out there and do a box drill and practice on the box drill of finishing about half a yard downfield, okay? Know your depth. If your coach hasn't told you, press your coaches for it. Ask them, at what depth do you want me to run this? You know, ask those kind of questions. Now, that's all the prepared stuff I have. Is there any questions that anybody has, or does anybody else want to add anything? Duncan, feel free to add any color you want to add to this.
Yeah, so for that last part, friendly finishes, there's a point when the ball's in the air that you turn a friendly finish to an aggressive catch, in my opinion.
Okay.
So at the end, you just literally, it's 1 yard, but you attack that ball. Make sure you get it, especially on outs, because an out is a play that's easily intercepted. So you have to be aggressive to the ball.
Yeah, I like that. So there's nothing that says receivers can't be aggressive. I've seen receivers that can block like nobody else. I've seen receivers who can hit. I've seen receivers who can go up and climb the ladder and get a ball. This is an aggressive position. You know, a lot of people have used the term, if you can't block, you can't get the rock. Those sort of things, those terms become part of the vernacular because they're true, right? Duncan's right, though. Be aggressive. Go get the football, okay? Don't wait for somebody. You never know how quick a DB is or how quick he's going to close, so don't leave anything to chance. Be aggressive. Help your quarterbacks out. Is there any other questions from anybody on the call? All right. With that, I am going to say goodnight. Thank you, everybody. And we will be back on Tuesday. We're going to be looking at inside runs and counters and the play actions that come off of them. Coach Dewan has added, we coach our DBs always to gain ground on 3 and 4 routes. If they don't come back to the ball, we'll come get it. Pete, if you don't mind, I'm going to unmute you. Can you talk about that for a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Just in your route or when you're running 3 and 4 routes, so if you're running an in or an out, you need to understand that we are coaching our defensive backs. As we break on the football, we are coming upfield 1.5 yards to get underneath you. So if you do not come back to the football, you may get us once, but the next time or the time after, we're going to undercut that route. We're going to take it to the house for 6.
Perfect. So there you go. You've heard it from what I consider one of the best defensive minds I've ever gone up against. If you don't come back to the football, they're going to. And believe me, there's nothing worse than being a receiver and being the route that gets your quarterback picked off for a touchdown. Excellent. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great long weekend. Stay safe, stay inside, and I will see you on Tuesday.